Welcome to the Generation Fit podcast. I'm your co-host, Coach Benji, and this is my other co-host, Coach Chris, and together we've helped over 200 men drastically improve their lives, dropping fat, building muscle. In today's episode number 23, we talked all about how to navigate Thanksgiving while staying on track with your fitness journey. Let's get into it.
In general, what are some Thanksgiving traditions that you have with your family?
Yeah, so we just go over to, well, it used to be my grandparents' house. Now it's still the same family members, but at my uncle's house. We have the typical turkey. We're an Italian family, so they have like a lot of Italian appetizers and stuff. But honestly, like I hate Thanksgiving. Like I like to be thankful for people. Like I think that's great. I think it's a virtue. But like I don't like any, like this is the most controversial thing of all time. I don't like any of the food at Thanksgiving.
I don't blame you. I don't think, if you actually look at all the foods with the spread, I don't think I would enjoy most of the food. You know, like I eat certain things and I like certain foods, but like if you talk about the percentage, I agree with you actually.
Yeah, do you really?
In terms of the food, yeah.
So it's not too controversial, I guess, or maybe our whole audience will hate us. But here's the thing: is that Christmas, for example, they do like the 7 fishes because we're Italian, right? And then I love fish. I love seafood, so they have like the salmon and they have fried calamari. They have mussels. They have clams. I love all that stuff. It's great. I eat every single thing there. Mm-hmm. Last year, so usually I split between my family and my girlfriend's, and her family, I don't remember what happened. Like someone was sick, like someone like fell off a horse and got stomped to death. I don't know. I just made that up. But so for some reason we couldn't do it. And so we decided, just like with her immediate family, they made literally my 3 favorite dishes. I think it was steak, it was lobster, and there was one other thing I can't remember. Maybe it was like roasted like chicken, or it was steak, lobster, something else that I really liked. But regardless, steak and lobster, which is awesome. Yeah. It's like the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, surf and turf.
Yeah, so it couldn't be better than that. I just don't understand why everyone doesn't do that. So now that someone isn't sick this year, I'm pissed off no one is, because I would have rather done that. Now I got to go have the bad food that I don't even eat. I'll just eat dessert.
Well, I think one of the best things about Thanksgiving is just like the plethora of desserts, and then also the fall desserts too that come along with it. So
that's true.
So like not just that, but like the cinnamon apple pie is also in season, right? So like, that's what's huge. Pecan pie. So like all the nuts are obviously harvested pretty locally. So those are like I think the desserts are the easiest. If you're talking about the savory foods, it's like, yeah, like turkey itself, like poultry. I'm not like the biggest fan of poultry. I'll eat it by all means. But chicken by itself, breast, turkey breast, like I don't crave it. Like the thigh.
Well, I like the chicken breast more than the turkey one, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean they're both the same macros basically. If not, turkey is like half a gram less fat.
Yeah,
which is like already pretty crazy to think about. So then, if you put it in that perspective, then I just don't go for turkey. And then what's the other thing? Ham is usually a big one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is
too, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't think we do that. But here's my thing: is that if you're not gonna have anything, like why? Okay, so you don't eat any of these things usually at any point in the year. Like all the people in my family, it's like they're never like craving a turkey or like, oh, I want like a thing of ham or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. They don't want any of that. But then because it's like tradition for Thanksgiving, it's like, oh, we got to make this thing that no one likes at any other point, but we're just gonna make it for this. It's like, why not just have the steak and lobster like I like? I don't understand.
I'm all about that. We actually, it's so funny you say that. So like, I mean, I know it's a Thanksgiving podcast. I'll give you a little tidbit about Christmas. So for Christmas, when we actually ate at home, we would actually make surf and turf ourselves.
Okay.
So that's what we did for Christmas on the day of, like for ourselves. My family's in Taiwan, so we don't celebrate with anybody else. So that's what we used to do. In terms of Thanksgiving, yeah, I as I have my own family, and then once we celebrate it our way, because right now it's like with the grandparents around, my parents, that they just do their own thing and then we do our own thing. So once we're kind of all separated, then I will have our own tradition, but I don't think I'll have like the full turkey on the plate or whatever. I probably would just get like pieces of the turkey already all chopped up or something like that, and then we were like, oh, maybe you should do this for more of the seasonal thing. You should do part of the celebration of Thanksgiving. It's like, sure, but if it's truly up to me, it's like I think my family's already gonna be eating a lot of steak we eat a lot of steak from Butcher Box, so I think steak is already like, we're like desensitized from it. Yeah. So I think for us, a turkey would actually make more sense, just to be like, all right, we had turkey.
Like the special thing, yeah.
But realistically speaking, I don't think a lot of people actually enjoy turkey as turkey.
Yeah, exactly. I don't mind the leg. Like like the leg and wing is designated for me. I won't eat like any of the other meat on there.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of gravy. I don't even know what gravy is. So I don't even, like, I don't know. It's
No, I don't
not
like the
appealing.
gravy.
And then the cranberry sauce, I assume is just a bunch of mixed like cornstarch. Again, I mean, I just know it's not like the healthiest thing, and it makes me feel like shit. So it's like, for me, it's all like, I'm not even joking. Even before, so before when I was fat, I would just eat a shit ton of food. So it didn't matter if it was tasted good. I just want to fill my stomach. So Thanksgiving was great. But now as I got older, as I understand caloric budgeting, I'm like, where can I allot most of my calories for that also taste good? And then you realize it's realistically like all the protein sources. And then I get a little bit of stuffing just to like say I had stuffing. But then the rest, I'm not even joking, allocates to all desserts.
Yeah.
All blueberry, apple, all the pies you can think of.
Exactly.
With a scoop of ice cream.
Yeah.
And that's at least 1,500 of my calories for that meal.
Yeah, I think I allocate everything to the dessert, actually. I mean, that kind of leads us into like one of the big questions is how do you deal with, I mean, there's a broader question of just like, maybe we talk about that right after, like about, you know, how you allocate and budget calories for Thanksgiving. Like, are you, like, how do you not gain weight? Like, what do you do? Like, can you even enjoy it? But just desserts, like everyone's going to ask, like, how do I navigate desserts? And, you know, to me, you have to think like you have a certain amount of calories you budget for the week. And I guess I will answer like the more general questions. Like you have a certain amount of calories you usually budget for the week. Typically you're losing 1% of your body weight. So like 1 to 2 pounds if you're currently dieting. So for the week, let's put it this way. If every single day you're in that calorie deficit and then in the day of Thanksgiving, you're in a surplus, chances are we could go through the math, but you're going to average out to a maintenance week, which is okay. Everyone thinks like, oh, I'm being thrown off my diet. Like that's so bad. But if you're sticking with your diet and all the days before, not even doing anything fancy, just like what you normally do, and then allowing yourself to eat at a surplus for Thanksgiving, that's one meal out of well over 1,000 meals that you're going to eat on the year. Like it's not going to screw anything up. Even if you totally screwed up the whole week and we're in a surplus for the week, that's one week out of the 52 weeks, one meal that put you slightly in a surplus for the week out of all of the other meals that you're eating across the year.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, like it's always, and it's typically the case with a lot of the questions we get asked on this podcast is it's not the question itself that deserves the answer. It's more how can we reframe the question to give people more context?
Yeah, it's more how can I fit in Thanksgiving with my lifestyle?
Yeah,
versus how can I fit into how can I fit all these good foods into my diet and also still look good? It's like, can you answer that question? It's like, sure, but the better question would be like, how can I integrate this overall to anything, not just Thanksgiving? So with Benji's touch points, amazing. Week, you're always thinking about the week. Definitely think about the week as a budget. And that's just as a whole. It does not have to be for Thanksgiving. We always look at everything at the macro level of at least a week. So if you mess up one day by just a few hundred calories, that you're able to readjust the next day or the next couple of days. So that's the big one. But then let's go into the daily stuff. So this is, I think, where the big fall point is for a lot of people. So being in a gym, working in there for a long time. When Thanksgiving came around, everybody was in the gym that morning or the day before. They would fast or barely eat anything the day before, and then they would binge eat on Thanksgiving. So that is actually, or exercise. So that means that is actually a form of exercise-induced bulimia. So you don't want to be doing this very massive cut or lessen the calorie count so low the one day to then rebound the next, right? That's actually a psychological issue. So in our case, you look at it from a week's point. If you just had a normal 500 to 1,000 calorie deficit throughout the week, and then you come in at Thanksgiving and you just have normal foods or portions that you normally have, and then also add in foods that you never have, also within reason, then it's, if I really think about it, a guy our size, anywhere between 150 to 200 pounds, that's trying to diet, can probably eat no more than 4,500 calories that day.
And still be at maintenance, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm just saying it's for the whole week. Let's say you're 2,500 calories above, right? So that's 5 days over, right? 500 calories.
Yeah, you're still technically, we're in a deficit that week then.
You're still in a deficit that week. So this is exactly what we do for our clients. So anybody watching this or listening to this right now, we tell them, run your deficit exactly the same. Thanksgiving comes around, eat like you normally would, just on that meal, and then have bits and servings of things that you enjoy, whether it be a cookie, a pecan pie. I love pecan pie. I love apple pie. I'll have a little bit of each, but I prioritize the protein that's super lean, maybe a little bit of sauce just to kind of help it out because it's super dry. Still, I don't know how people like turkey that much. And and then after that is just all calories are allotted to the foods I never have. And yes, I'll feel like shit, but guess what? It's one day. I'll just drink some apple cider vinegar or maybe a little bit of ginger tea to help me digest a little bit. And then the next day I get right back on track. This is exactly what we do for our clients.
Yeah.
We tell them that week of Thanksgiving is maintenance is the target. And then some people will still lose weight. Yeah. So target maintenance, even though throughout the rest of the 5 or 6 days of that week isn't a deficit. It's just some people I know can just really do a lot of damage on that one day.
Yeah.
Whether they drink like, for example, wine with it.
Well, that was like actually one of the next questions is like alcohol going to ruin the progress? Like, how do you handle that?
Wow. So,
well, one like I guess like as a complete alcoholic. No, is that what you're going to say?
Yes.
But well, I think one thing is you have to understand what it does. Like, obviously, sure, there's like all the especially in excess, like the negative things that it could do to your body. But that's usually you're also talking about that chronically, like how that affects your ability to drop fat and whatever. So if you have to understand, like, okay, let's say you're having a glass of wine and that's 150 calories right there. Okay, that's calories, just like the other calories that you're eating. Like, sure, we can get into a whole debate, like calories in, calories out versus what is the actual content of the calories and the substance that you're having. But here's the thing is that now this is just one day. This is not a chronic thing. And also, you know, the most important thing when it comes to dieting is going to be your total calories in terms of your ability to gain weight or lose weight. Sure, there's other things that contribute to that broader equation, but for you guys, you don't need to look at it that way. I would just look at it as calories in, calories out. And if you're at, let's say a glass of wine is 150 calories, we already talked about how you have room to be on a surplus on that day. So really how I would look at it is take, you know, that amount of calories of wine that you're having. Let's say you have, like, let's just give you an extreme example. Let's say you're having 3 glasses and that's 450 calories. That's just a part of the surplus that you're having on the day anyways. And hopefully you took our advice and the week before actually followed, you know, how you should pre-plan to be able to go into the surplus that day.
Yes. With drinking, it's just calories. So there are calories. The thing is, it obviously changes your inhibition. So
yeah,
what you drink specifically. So if it's hard liquor, then it won't fill up your stomach. It is not that many calories, but the whole point is that you're still taking in, let's say, 3 shots.
Yeah.
In a taller drink, that's 300 calories at, you know, somewhere around there. And then you don't feel full at all, technically, right?
Yeah.
Like 3 shots of vodka into club soda, right? That's the normal drink. Squeeze some lime in there. You can finish that pretty easily and still be very hungry after that. So,
absolutely.
So
you're more hungry.
Exactly. So that's why the whole thing is now liquid calories overall with alcohol. It makes you hungrier because you don't take in that much on top of changing your inhibition. So it's like instead of getting the signal that you're full, you're not, you know, you're going to keep eating because you're a little bit tipsy, a little bit drunk, whatever it is. And I'm not saying you can't drink. It just will definitely change your mood and your state. So I would say is prepare to drink maybe like 2 to 3 drinks at most, but also account for that. So that actually would equate to about 1 slice of pie, if you really think about it. So like, if you're like me, who would just rather eat more than drink more, then it's like, if I have, for example, this is actually how I navigate Thanksgiving myself, is like I will actually only have protein and fiber beforehand. Then like maybe like 80 grams of protein and some fiber in between. Then when I get to Thanksgiving dinner, I'll literally have about a pound, I'm not even joking, a pound of meat on my plate. On one plate, it's a pound of meat. Like a lot of vegetables. So like, what's the leafy green? That's like a ball looking thing. Brussels sprout.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't eat any greens.
All right, so Brussels sprout. I'll have Brussels sprouts and then asparagus, right? Like on one plate. Like it's just the healthiest plate. It gets me to 160 grams of protein.
And then you slam dessert.
And then everything else is like, how can I fit 4,000 calories in for the rest of it being desserts, drinks, and the whole 9? And all I would do is
it's just fun.
Yeah, I'll choose like pecan pie, apple pie, blueberry pie, ice cream, a glass of wine. Yeah. That's 3,000. It's like basically the rest of the 4,000 calories. And no, I do not eat 4,000 calories to maintain weight. I just know that I allot an extra 2,000 calories for that day. Yeah. No, I think that's smart. Like you use some of our general strategies of if you wanted to like go out to eat, let's say, but you do it to the extreme on Thanksgiving a little bit. So you follow through with your diet. You don't undereat the day before to the point where you're like, you know, that's basically
a form of bulimia. It's almost like pre-done bulimia. Is that like a thing, right? Like
No,
it's
this is just budgeting, but
like if you're doing it like the day before and you're eating like nothing, like
it's called exercise-induced bulimia.
exercise-induced bulimia, right? So you have that, and then but if you're not doing that, right, you're just eating your normal deficit across the week. You get to the day of, and then you use the other strategy, which we'd usually use when going out to eat or whatever it is. You do like a complete protein preload, have like 80 to 100 grams of protein. And then at the actual dinner, there's nothing I really like. I don't mind the turkey leg and the wing. So I just have that. That's a little bit more protein there. And then everything else that I eat, like thousands of calories, is just the dessert. So like chocolate cake, ice cream, chocolate mousse, whatever it is, right? And I don't know, it works, right? Because people are going to look at this and be like, how is that possible? But like we explained how it's like there's actual math to it. And it's just no different than what we've always talked about. If you're going out to eat or having a special event, it's just the only difference is it's more exaggerated how you're using those principles. That's all. You're just stretching the principles a little bit that you've always been following to stay in your deficit or at least maintain your body weight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the exact principles that we use. And I think what's a great follow-up is we have a lot of other questions. I just know as a pro tip here, which is amazing. So everybody feels like crap Thanksgiving Day after they eat.
Yeah.
Right. And then
falling asleep.
So whether it be the itis or food coma, I don't know what you guys call it around the States. We call it the itis in New Jersey.
Is that what we call it?
Yeah, we do call it the itis. We call it the itis. But to mitigate, or at least to help out with digestion, to mitigate the effects of the itis, because you are probably going to walk around, and I'm sure you have the family members that like unbuckle their pants, sit on the couch, watch Thanksgiving.
That's my dad.
Watch Thanksgiving football, and then like root against the Cowboys because nobody likes the Cowboys around here. So to mitigate that, things that have worked for me, and I always tell clients to have this on hand in their pantries, anyways. So apple cider vinegar. Everybody's like, oh, it's the best thing. Like, the health experts are always touting about it, and then the guys on the other side like it doesn't do shit. Personal experience: when I do have ACV before, like a tablespoon or two, before and after the meal, especially a big meal, it helps out so much with my blood sugar regulation. I don't feel the itis, and I'm accounting for like even just going out. But Thanksgiving is definitely the biggest one because I'll never have, again, 70 grams of sugar in one sitting except for Thanksgiving, ever. So that's one, apple cider vinegar. Two is having like ginger tea. So like just go out and grab like a ginger tea from like your local store. It's not expensive at all. It's like $5 for the entire box. Helps digest faster. Lets you just get everything out, basically run through the intestines. It feels a lot better against your stomach. So that's two. And three is like hopefully that you just like walk and do something afterwards besides just sitting down. I know you're there with your family, so obviously you probably just want to talk, chill, hang out. But like even just doing a little bit of walking. Because most people's Thanksgivings are pretty early, aren't they? Aren't they like 4 o'clock?
Yeah, I think it's relatively earlier, yeah. And then even earlier than that sometimes. And yeah, if you walk, it allows you to regulate your blood sugar a little bit more as well because you're using it. You're putting it towards something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the big 3 that I usually do. I just know like the ACV trick is always having 1 or 2 tablespoons before and after.
This is a nerdy question that doesn't serve the audience at all, but like maybe it does. Does that, do you know the mechanism in which it works? Like, does it just like allow you to get rid of excess insulin that would just be sitting in your bloodstream? Like, how does it?
My understanding of it is that the ACV helps regulate the acidity of your stomach, which helps
break it down.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a ton of sense.
Yes. And then in research, it just helps with blood sugar overall and regulating as a whole. Hence why people have been like, this is like the best thing in the world. When realistically, it's just like, I believe, interpreting from that data,
the people that it probably helps is the people with gut health issues.
Yes, where it's like their stomach is probably not very acidic because of whatever the foods are, because they put they take a lot of drugs, antibiotics.
Yeah.
Like even if it's prescribed, the whole point is that if you take antibiotics, it nukes the good bacteria too.
Yeah.
So re-regulating the acidity of the stomach is where it helps out a lot. I'm just saying is if you're able to take ACV or any vinegar-based stuff, it helps out so much.
Yeah.
I swear to you, I spend it with a family friend of mine now, and I will literally carry around a diluted bottle of water with 4 tablespoons of ACV in it, just like to shoot it beforehand and shoot it afterwards.
Pull out your pants.
I have my pea coat, and I walk in, and I'm like, all right, this is mine. Nobody else does this. This is for my safety and yours.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, I just ended up, like I have farts every, it's just the whole thing. Everything's bad. I'm in their bathroom. Farting. I'm like, dude, I don't want
clogging the toilet.
I was like,
up.
it's a win-win for everybody. It's definitely a win-win for both sides of the spectrum here. So
that reminds me of, you ever see like Merry Christmas, Drake and Josh?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you remember like was it that episode? Well, now it might be like a normal show that like not the movie. I can't remember, but do you remember like they had like that black guy that like robbed everything and he was like driving in the car? That's so funny because it's like so stereotypical at the time that was okay. And he has like the grapefruit and he just like pulls the sugar. You know what I'm talking about? He pulls the sugar out and they're like, where'd you get that sugar from? He's like, I always carry sugar from my grapefruit. Yeah. So it's like, that's like you with apple cider vinegar. Yeah.
What's funny is like, I don't do that obviously when I go out to like restaurants normally.
Yeah.
What I would say though is you can take it in pill form.
Oh, okay. That's good.
So you can take it in pill form. I just know that I have been experimenting with this for like 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
I've noticed that I generally feel better by just shooting it actually straight up. Like
because it's like as a part of a solution, right? So that also helps probably with the digestion of that into
I actually do that with the solution. So it's diluted in water. So I put a little bit of water in there. If you want metrics, 2 tablespoons to like 4 ounces of water. And I just shoot that up before and after the meal.
Well, it's like pre-workout too. Like they say, like like people that dry scoop, it makes no sense because the effects aren't they're not as strong because you're not able to bring it in with water and get it into your bloodstream how it should be going in.
Yeah, and that's when they butt chug it, and the next thing you know, that's how they really laser it in there.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So here's another really good one: is like mindset in these social situations, like with your family. Is how do you deal with family pressure to eat more, or finishing your plate, right? So like
that's good.
Yeah. So I remember you taught me something like years ago that I thought was good, and you tell everyone so that it's a part of a challenge. So
Jordan Sy taught me this one.
So Jordan Sy, so a coach taught a coach on how to coach a coach once again.
Yep.
But it makes a lot of sense. You want to talk about that because you're the one that initially explained that?
Yeah. So I think with social contexts, right, with the peer pressure, doesn't matter if it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people will tell you to do something because that is the social norm, especially within a small vicinity. So instead of it being that you're just saying no just to say no, in which case people will just attack that no just because it's very, very face value.
Yeah, it's against the grain. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're just that guy that walks in, you walk into a bar and say, hey, I just want water. Right. And then everybody peer pressures you to drink.
Yeah.
And that's just because that's the norm. So in that case, if you tell somebody anytime that you're doing a challenge or this means something to me that I'm not doing for, an X amount of time. And to be fair, they don't even care in that regard. But the whole point is that they don't want to be the person that breaks your challenge. They don't want to be the scapegoat to the reason why you didn't follow through because nobody wants to take that responsibility or that burden.
Yeah. So
once you say, hey, I'm on this challenge, I made a promise to myself. And then you can say that you actually give a promise to somebody else. In this case, is if I'm coaching you, then like, hey, I promised to myself and my coach that I'm not going to do this. And I choose not to do this. 2 very big things. So 1, that they don't want the responsibility. And 2, that you're choosing not to do it because we both agree and we know it's not aligned with your goals.
Yeah.
As simple as that.
I like that. You see, like it's general human nature to try and socialize someone into going with the norm, but the norm isn't always what's the healthiest or what's best for you. So you could throw, human psychology back at what's very typical of human nature by making someone, almost feel bad because no one's, if you don't give any resistance or anything that in their mind is just, they're just going to attack that and be like, oh, why are you the oddball out? But what you could do is pin that back on them. And if you say, oh, like I'm engaging in part of a challenge to, achieve this certain result, no one wants to be the reason why you don't achieve something that's important to you and don't win a challenge, right? Because then you turn it on them and that you basically show them that if they're the reason why you don't achieve a challenge, they're the bad guy now. Yeah, so it's not the other way around. It's like you're the bad guy right now for not being socialized into the norm, yes. But then they become the bad guy because they're not helping you get to your end goal.
Yeah, and then are they your friend or they're your family member that you regard highly, right?
Yeah.
Then you start questioning their entire value to you.
Exactly.
So it actually completely screws it up. Hence why a lot of the things that we talk about, a lot of it is psychological and sociological. We know the physiological, but the whole point is that the physiological doesn't tell us a story of how we can help each other and get to our goals. And I think would say is a little tidbit about this too is don't overshoot your plate. I think overall, right? Like, yes, your family members, especially every ethnic family member has always said, oh, eat more, take it home. Like, oh, that's it's polite. It's the polite thing to do. And by all means, like, maybe some things you do like, you probably feel like taking it home. Sure. I'm just saying in this case, so past that point, I think I'd rather you go up to the serving table, or maybe it is at your table, but whatever it is, that when you take out your portions, just do one small portion of everything at a time that you want. So like, if you want a piece of turkey, I would double up on protein, and then I'll get more vegetables, and then a little bit of whatever carbs that you like. Like just keep doing small bits, very small bits of everything. So I'd rather you go up, or at least make the inconvenience of getting small servings, than loading up your plate every single time, and then you have to finish your plate, because then now you're setting yourself up for a failure for somebody else to tell you, oh, there's a homeless guy down the street and you're not eating your food. So instead of the other way, be like, okay, you keep getting it and inconveniencing yourself and everybody else. Then you can finish your plate. Just give it to the
homeless guy.
Or just give it to the homeless guy.
That's the end of
Be altruistic.
Yeah. Don't give him like cigarettes or anything like Marlboros. Just give him food. All right. So I want to highlight something, because there's a lot of questions here that are not the right questions. And the answer we gave initially for how we would set up our Thanksgiving meal is pretty much the answer to, I would say, like 90% of these questions, actually, right?
Yes.
Because it's the wrong questions in the first place. So like, how can I use Thanksgiving as an opportunity to reset and set goals for the rest of the year? Based on our initial answer, you now know that that's not the right question to be asking. It's not the right frame of reference, right? How can I get back on track quickly if I overindulge? Now you know that even if you're overindulging for the day, you're not overindulging for the week. So that's no longer a question that needs to be answered. Should I adjust my workouts during Thanksgiving week if I'm eating more? You now know, no, you do the same thing for your workouts, right? So there's so many of these questions. I could read down it a lot, that they're asking them within the wrong frame of reference. And the answer will always be the same. It'll be, well, no, I'm not going to answer that, because you shouldn't be doing that in the first place. Instead, you want to set it up the right way with the right principles. And all you're doing is stretching those principles a little bit for a more exaggerated event, in this case being Thanksgiving.
Yes. Exactly. A lot of this is pre-planning. And then after that, then it becomes the little tidbits and tricks for maybe that day, maybe the psychological portion of it, or the sociological portion of it. But overall, all your days should be almost identically the same. And then if you're pre-planning it, then it just means eating less for 6 days and then eating more for one day. Doesn't matter the event. But that's right now, as we're talking about Thanksgiving, it's just easier to relate, because we know that social pressures, right? A lot of family members love to drink. They want you to drink. And then it's the food. Then they want to make sure you eat a lot of food. And then, or finish your plate, because they don't want the homeless guy next door, and they feel bad that they're paying for this and you're not eating it. Right. So there are definitely things in this regard that are, and having more people around you will definitely affect you. I would say something more psychological. I think if you're the person that's been dieting, right, overall, and you go into Thanksgiving and you're looking forward to it, to be eating a lot of food, that's where I think we have to change your psychological belief about food. I think this is a good touch point.
Yeah.
So something very simple and basic is, yes, food is how we socialize, how we emotionally attach to social events, psychological feeling, emotional being, sure. But if your goal is to eat so much that you're uncomfortable, like I used to, that's where I come from, there was an emotional attachment to the point where it was illogical. So what I'm trying to get to you guys is try to figure out why you're trying to eat so much and trying to compensate. There's something that you're compensating for. Now you have to dig deeper into why that's happening to you, so you can stop it before it happens.
Exactly. And that's going to be something that you're dealing with every week and every meal. Thanksgiving is just exaggerating that at scale, right? It's taking a problem that you already have that affects you every meal that you do indulge in, because you're going about every meal wrong, and you're going about solving these other issues you have by eating more food. And then Thanksgiving, all it does is it's a more exaggerated form. So if you're wondering that, like you're dealing with that and struggling with that issue, the question isn't what do you do about Thanksgiving? The question is, what do you do about food? How do you look at food normally?
Better
Not
questions.
Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Better questions, better answers.
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of times the questions are more important than the answers, because you can't even get the right answer in the first place without identifying the right question. If you are enjoying this podcast so far and feel like you're getting value, please share it with a friend who you also believe would extract value from this. Now, let's get into the rest of the show.
I remember having a traditional Chinese Thanksgiving with other family members when I was young. I liked it way more than the American Thanksgiving. in terms of the food selection.
Wait, they have like their own Thanksgiving in China, or Chinese people in America celebrating Thanksgiving?
They just, it's the second one, and then they swap the foods.
Oh yeah, it's probably so much better.
So the first thing they do is have duck. So that's number one.
Nice.
That is the bird that they choose. So it's just a lot of, it's not Peking duck for the most part. I think it's your choice there, but it's some sort of duck, and also the fat is crisped and basically like fried. So it's very crispy.
Yeah.
If you ever had duck, it is very juicy.
Isn't the
fatty.
smell very like pungent when you're cooking it?
Yes, it's very fatty.
Yeah.
So duck is very fatty for the most part, besides the breast. But we always have ducks, and then you have Asian pancakes. So it's just like rice flour and a little bun. It's called like a Chinese bun, but it's called duck pancakes.
Yeah.
And it has like with green onion, so like it really has a nice aroma with duck sauce on it.
Okay.
Way better. Already way better.
Yeah.
Like that's freaking amazing. Are you kidding me? And then on top of that, in terms of like everything else, then it's just traditional Chinese and Taiwanese food was like scallion pancakes, noodle soups, all that. And then like beef, big thing for Taiwan is beef noodle soup. So it was like bone beef broth
Yeah.
and with rice noodles with beef shank. Like completely simmering.
It crushes our Thanksgivings, dude. Yeah, I mean, when I'm the leader of the pack and everyone's coming to my place, like it's gonna be so much different. It's gonna be like lobster, steak,
Well, we can afford it too.
salmon. Yeah, exactly. But it's gonna be all that, or at least just for me. You know, if no one else wants it, fine, more for me. Oysters would be cool, like really upscale. You know, just oysters for everyone.
I think, to be fair, if we map this out properly, let's just say one of our places that we own, I think we'll have it as like the family place that we get. And then what we'll do is we'll have like a business meeting like the day of, or, like just a meeting, actually have a meeting and have that as our,
and then right off the Thanksgiving food.
Yeah. Thanksgiving. This is the whole thing, thing.
Just say it's a big business meeting. Yeah. A lot of employees.
Well, technically my son are employees, and then it'd be like your girlfriend's an employee or a contractor. So at least that's already written off. I'm just trying to get at it as we try to figure out a way. That's one. And two is, if we can afford it, then it's like, I'm 100% most likely if I had it my way, I would have a turkey. It wouldn't be that big though. It would just be just there just for the season. For sure. Yeah. Just there because it's the seasonal thing to do.
Yeah.
After that though, then it would be a spread of most likely like prime rib because it's easier to cut through. Beef Wellington. So it's like the breading on the outside and it's roast beef or I think it's prime rib in the middle actually. So most likely a beef Wellington. So the steak portion of it, would throw a bunch of seafood. So like it just be one like the big ass salmon, and all you do is just get a little thing. That's
awesome.
Like big salmon, pan fried and seared at the bottom. So like it's upside down. So like it's seared. So I'll have definitely a big piece of salmon. Another thing that Asians do is they have fish on that day. So they'll have ginger fish basically. It's like green onions, ginger, garlic. It's like the big.
It's like on a specific type of fish or no?
Just like not that I know of. I think it's flounder. But,
okay, flounder's good.
But it's like the entire fish. Like
like a whole.
Like
its eyes there and everything.
Every detail. It's not scaled, nothing. Like you are literally taking it piece by piece out.
How about like cats or dogs or anything? Like,
well, cat is a delicacy and it's usually for a very specific reason. And no, they're not domesticated. That's why they eat them. If they do, but I've yet to have. Do you
think you'll ever have it? Like
probably if I'm in China, it's not Taiwanese. It's a Chinese thing.
Yeah.
So I will probably end up eating it. So it's on the record. I would if I can try it. It's not domesticated.
PETA's coming for us.
Yeah, as I have a hairless Sphinx cat in my house somewhere. But those are the things I would have primarily. And then in terms of like, I think desserts are easy, but in terms at least for the proteins, that's the base. And then I'll have like the white rice. The white rice. I'll have stuffing just to match. Yeah. Maybe cranberry sauce, but I think that's
Chinese perfect. Also, it'll be leaner too. Like that's the thing. Also, is like on Christmas, like it's all fish, and I don't think I barely eat at maintenance on Christmas. It's like I have the dessert, but what I'm saying is the main dishes, because it's all like protein based. A lot of those fishes are very lean. Yeah, I'm eating almost. I'm not even eating a surplus. I don't think that day.
Is there pasta too? Is there any pasta at all?
There probably is a little bit, but it's like you have to. If you're doing the right things leading up to it, like you would have to eat a lot of pasta. I feel like.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it was like 7 fishes and
I don't know if there is. I think it just depends on the family. But like I probably like Allie doesn't like any fish really. She only likes fried calamari, so like they'll probably have to be pasta anyways for her.
Is she pickier than you?
No, just with fish. Well, I'm probably pickier than her. But then it's weird because the whole joke is that like I'm so picky with like the most typical foods that everyone eats or like your average American food. But then I'll eat like just a giant octopus, like just like a full octopus. Like, you know what I mean? Like the ones they have at Costco where it's like, looks like only like Asian people would eat. Like I'll eat that. I'll eat chicken hearts at like a Brazilian restaurant.
Yeah.
Like that's considered the weird thing to an American person.
Sure.
But then I'm considered picky with everything else.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's pretty cool. I just didn't know how like when people say 7 fishes, I know like there are literally 7 fishes.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if it was on top of that they usually have pasta side, like
gotcha.
cold pasta, antipastas, and then like
I think they do. Yeah, I think they do. Yeah.
Right.
I'm a big swordfish guy.
Interesting.
I should probably like barter for that to be there this year.
If you do, just drink a lot of citrus, like a lot. Anytime you eat
because of the
mercury.
Yeah.
Right. It's just any heavy metals, just drink a lot of citrus water, like citrus and citrus waters. But just in general, like it doesn't have to be just this one time. It's one day, you know, God forbid you have a little bit of swordfish.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, why not? Like shark.
Yeah.
You have shark fin soup before?
No, I never have. I'm excited to try that now. Yeah.
Shark fin. It's also an Asian. That's another one that's in Chinese.
Is it good?
It's okay. Like I don't go. I'm not like after it. It's
but if there's swordfish somewhere though, like I'll get it. Because to me, it's like in between a salmon and steak. Like I don't even know if that makes sense, but like the texture and the taste, like it just doesn't match anything.
You never had a salmon steak or a tuna steak?
No.
Yeah, that's why. It tastes similar to a salmon steak.
Oh yeah.
That's why when we say salmon steak, I'm like, there's literally something called a salmon steak.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that.
It's like a big
gotcha,
like omega sign almost.
Okay.
Omega.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I don't know. Sea bass is real good.
Buttery. It's like the texture is so buttery.
Yeah,
and
it's a little thicker than like the actual meat, right? Compared to all the other fish.
Yeah, I think serving it like
Chilean sea bass.
Yeah, I love getting sea bass. I just know if I serve it to people, it's just like when you do stuff like that, it's like you also have to keep it warm at a certain temperature. And it can't seep out. Like you don't want to keep the juices in there. It's just a lot more maintaining it. So like
that would be tough to make. Like.
And then hold there, like especially for a big gathering. So like I'm just saying, imagine if like in the future, it's like you have, you know, your best friends, family, her friends, family. Yeah. It's like you have 30 people. It's like if you have sea bass, it's like if you have it in a heated container, it's like it's like going to steam out all the juices and all the flavor. It's like I don't know, maybe. Whereas like salmon's super easy. Salmon's like you just put the burner at the bottom and then you just let it rip and sit, and it will just be perfectly fine.
Gotcha.
Because it's so much thicker.
Yeah.
There's things I've thought about as I'm watching this show about people cannibalizing other people, but you know.
You're watching that show right now?
Hannibal Lecter, yeah.
Oh, you're actually watching Hannibal. I thought you were going to talk about like the real cannibals. Like you ever see like the reporters, they'll go and they'll like, yeah.
No.
Because it still exists.
You've seen Hannibal?
Yeah.
So the TV show.
Oh no. I've seen the movies.
Same,
like Signs of the Lambs.
Same premise, but basically it's like in the show, it's just, it flips it a little bit, but the whole point is that Hannibal he has interest in he's a cannibal, but the whole point is that he's also a fine chef. So he's surgical because he was a surgeon, became a psychiatrist, and he's also a fine chef. So when he serves people at dinner parties and just having people over for dinner,
so they can't tell that they're eating people, right? That's the whole thing.
He would just be like, "Oh, it's a lamb heart. Oh, it's a chicken. You know,
it's like human shit.
But it's the person he just killed."
Oh yeah, did he do that in the movie too? I can't remember. He might have done it in like the second or third movie.
No, it definitely is. It's just a different adaptation of it.
Yeah,
like it's definitely a lot less elegant. The TV show, it's all psychological. It's
new too.
It's a psychological thriller. No, it's like 2016.
Oh, okay. Allie would probably like that.
It's a psychological thriller.
Yeah, we can end on one thing here, right? One piece of advice is: should you talk about politics at the Thanksgiving table?
Yeah. Oh God. Well, I would say read the room. I would say lead with that first. So, if you're just saying like a blanket statement, yes or no, no, most of the time. No, most of the time. And it's not because I, as a person of free speech and an arbiter of understanding.
Yeah. It's more what is the value you get from doing it if everyone else sucks?
Yes. It's just if the people around you know that they're not going to change their logic, reason, understanding, regardless of the situation at hand, then who is at fault? Like basically, who is the person that's dumb here? Is it the one that's trying to make them change, or is it the person that's not changing at all? So there's a very famous quote, which I cannot definitely think on top of my head.
Like you could win a debate against an intelligent person, but it'll be hard, but you can't win a debate against an idiot. That one? That's
one, but it's like if you're arguing against an idiot, you can't tell who's the idiot.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, that's kind of what I've come to realize as well. Like, because my whole thing is that should you, if you rephrase the question, it's just like, should you talk to people that disagree with you? There should be nothing wrong with that. Like, it has become essentially vilified or faux pas in this country. But like the more we have, the more we find common ground, the more we advance as a society. But if you're going to be at the dinner table and it happens every year and no one changes their mind about anything and everyone just starts like throwing punches and stuff, you know, it makes no sense to. Like, it's just, you're getting no value. You're not deriving any value out of it. It's just making you angry.
Yeah, I would say I have thought about this overall too. Like, it's not just like don't do it. I just say no in general in most situations. It's just because both sides of the spectrum, anytime you sit down, it's just so tight. They tie it to their emotions on both sides, and then it just becomes a battle of emotions, not the actual ideologues. I'm just saying is if you're going to have that conversation, what I would truly say is I think start off with what you guys actually agree with. Yeah. So, and I guarantee you the people that you sit across from the table as a whole, because like if you really think about it, it's only like, Trump only won, like technically speaking, it's only like 55, 56%. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or actually a little bit more than that. But I'm just saying is like, you still have a big other side of the spectrum here. So
yeah, it's for give or take, let's just say it's 50-50.
Right, that's huge. So I think if you actually spoke out and been like, hey, break out every single point out, right?
Yeah.
Like as simple as this, like name anything, right? So start with the basic stuff. It's like, how would you change, for example, your stance on guns? And it's like, well, I think no matter what, I think people, it's like, we want less deaths with guns, right? I think we both agree on both sides. It's like, okay, then our goal is the same.
Yeah. But well, that's the problem is that most people don't even realize like they both want less deaths with guns because they assume the worst of the other side. So if you just like agreed on that in the first place, it's already a better spot.
100%.
Yeah.
So start with the points that you agree on, but the goal behind those policies. So figure out the goal. And because I think at the end of the day, if you really went down the list, most people you talk to are like, yes, I would prefer people with less guns, death by guns, whether it's intentional or by accident. Yeah. It doesn't matter which one, or suicide, right? Like you don't care.
Yeah,
it's
one of the biggest numbers. Yeah,
you just want less. Then you can go a little bit deeper on something else, right? It's like economics. It's like, well, you can go into unions and then also like inflation, and then you go, okay, all of us probably want our dollar to be worth more across the board, internationally and nationally. I think that is like 99%. We hope. Otherwise, you want our dollar to go somewhere else, and then next thing we become Argentina, whatever it is, Argentina or Venezuela is the biggest one. Yeah, and it's like $30,000. It went up like by 30,000x or something. Yeah, like that. It was ridiculous.
Stupid,
right?
McDonald's costs like hundreds of dollars.
Yeah. So I just think if you sat down, you talk to them about this, and you're like, hey, our goal is let's make our dollar worth more, and then let's make our products and everything cheaper because everybody is buying. I think that is the premise of it. And then if you guys disagree by the mechanism of that, then that's where it will become contentious. But the whole point is that if you can actually argue the history and then the logic behind it, that makes a lot more sense.
Now it's just very hard to find two people that are both going to do that. Like we can give that advice to people and the other person's like, no, you fucking Nazi. But like the thing is that is a problem. But this is what I would do. It's really messed up. But like, I
fucking suck.
Yeah, I would be like, if you voted for Trump, be like, "What's up, Grandma? Suck it." But like, that's what I'm not gonna do that this year. But we could. It would be pretty funny.
You should go to your girlfriend's sister's Thanksgiving and see what happens.
Well, that's what I always like. This is what I always dreamed of. Actually, like as a side note, like this podcast is going off the rails, but this is what I always dreamed of. Is like I have this house, like this absolute mansion. And it's gorgeous. And they have to roll up to Thanksgiving with their entire family, right? And like they just see like all these things that are like so offensive to them, like on the lead up to like the flags that are hanging up like in the front, and then they gotta like walk through this house. It's like all this stuff that they like despise. It would just be great.
Well, it's your house. Like at that point, it's just like you invite somebody into your house. It's like it's coming. You just know what it is. And
it's like a double champ does what the fuck he wants. Conor McGregor. But this is what I would do: is I would say, if you're talking about politics, I would go up to a family member, and whoever like the candidate they like, I would say, I'm really upset that this candidate X candidate didn't win because I really like their policy on X, but I would switch the policies around from the candidates. So I'd be like, I'm really upset like Kamala didn't win because she's really for like. She wants to be stricter on this thing. Like she's really like anti-foreign wars and like she's trying to take money out of Ukraine and all these different things. And then they'll be like, yeah, I know, like it's ridiculous. And you'd be like, oh, I'm just kidding. Like that was Trump's policy. And then like see what they say then.
Yeah.
Get them.
Gang up on him.
Yeah, and then it's like the whole family just like gang up on that fucker.
Well,
It's the anti-advice.
well, it's also that means it's also just complete ignorance. Like it's not even just politics. It's like anything else. It's like somebody else can come to you and just be like, say something blanket statement, and then somebody will be like, "Oh yeah, that's true," and they'll be like, "No, that was actually the wrong thing," whatever it might be. Hence all these interviews on the street.
Yeah.
I think a personal story here. So she's still a good friend of mine too. So if she will ever,
we've definitely mentioned her before like 6 times.
She'll well, her and her friend are the biggest ones. So it's just a big example. And I just remember going into the 2020 election, and I was like, I knew nothing of politics then, right? I just knew bits and pieces and only heard big tidbits because I was so busy working in personal training and managing. So when we had Friendsgiving that time, she always was very vocal about what she said. And then all I did was ask one question against her.
Like, why?
And then she was like, I can't have this conversation, right? And I was like, sat there, I like persisted at the dinner table, in which case the host...
You weren't even disagreeing, right? You were just like,
no.
oh, why do you think that?
I was like, I was just persistent. And then the host, which was my best friend's mother, who just moved, we were there at her house, like just stopped her. She goes, no conversation about this. Like, don't have it. Which is whatever. I respect her. It's her house, right?
Yeah.
So, well, after that day, I actually just thought, like, it's not that I'm not her friend still. It's like I am. But in terms of policy, in terms of understanding, it kind of makes me think. I think we both get information differently from different channels and mediums, and also what we're fed. Hence, why it becomes a completely different ideologue on both ends. Whereas, like, I'm just trying to find the best information possible. I just want the best result to be able to have less whatever it is. So it's like more money, more worth our dollar, less inflation, less deaths by guns, like basic stuff, right? Like the goal or pretty much line. International safety, pretty basic stuff.
Yeah.
Basics of gentrification, or at least assimilation. However way you get there. Yeah. Basic stuff. But yeah, she went the whole 9 about like,
that's interesting. Like she was
white guy.
She was. Is that what you said? Yeah.
Yeah. Old white guy. All the old white guys are taking over the U.S. They're still in charge. We can't wait to knock them out. And
but the best is like all the people that said that, then they like wore Biden shirts and shit. Like most of the people that said that like ended up like voting 100%. For him like fervently.
Yes.
That's what doesn't 100%. Make any sense. Like Kamala said the same thing about Biden, then was his vice president.
Hence why I was trying.
Sorry to bring up so many facts, guys. Like just fact bomb everyone right now, but
it's so funny because I have so many. Like, it's true though. I do have a lot of guys who are like liberal or left leaning in this past election, and it's just so funny because like when they hear me talk they don't
expect it.
They don't expect it.
Yeah.
One, and then two is like I don't attack them, and nor do they seem like it's attacking. I'm just like, we disagree.
Yeah,
sure.
But you know what? I think it's almost like a problem that they don't expect it. Not them specifically, but how societies cast this net of like, oh, people with this personality type, like you just expect them, like if you're friendly with them, like obviously they must like agree with you on these political issues. It's like that's problematic because so many people would hear like, oh, I have this belief or that belief. Be like, that's so shocking, Benji. Like it's so incongruent with like who you are as a person. I'm like, no, it's not. It's like what you're told in the media is like. Is your facts, and then what I'm told in the media is my facts, and then yours is lies to me, and mine is lies to you, and like that's not a good way of going about it. Like instead, we should just try to like cut away all that noise, like just go to the source, the root of the source as much as possible, and try to like think freely and like have open dialogue about it.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things. So it has nothing to do with just policy, or I think science. I think relate it back to our side. One of the clients I've ever worked with was a great man. He was a philosophy professor, and he taught at an Ivy League school. And he would always say to have the others, if you have a stance on something, argue for the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to completely argue. That's what we do with the students, is 200 level students.
Yeah.
He would be like, where do you stand on the spectrum? What are some arguments that you take? Okay, we're going to have a debate. But everybody that's on one side, and if you know anything about the current situation, most Ivy League schools are left-leaning, which means that all of them, let's say 100 students, 90 of them at least would have to now make the argument for what would be the right side's policy.
And then they probably never even saw through the lens of someone who thought differently. Yeah.
And every single time, he would always say, more than 80% of them actually change their minds.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think about, because that just means that we're just being fed the information. of whatever it is.
And it's the confirmation bias. You never think about the other side. You never find any facts that would support the other side because you're only getting ones that support what you currently believe.
Exactly. And and then with the algorithms, you're only looking at spending time on the things that you want to see. So that's another thing. It's just like a double.
And that's always been human nature. It's just so much more exaggerated because of the spread of information now with social media.
Exactly. So that's why in our case, with the sciences, right? That's why when you hear us talk, it's never like, so on the podcast setting, it's always explaining why we do the things that we do. Because yes, a blanket market statement that you see 10 seconds in, it's like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Sure, it gets your eyeballs. That's why. But realistically speaking, if I, for example, am a carnivore, that means by association, I'm going to do this exercise by doing the opposite. So I will argue to be a vegan. And guess what? I think both of them actually are doable. And I just don't think they're long term. I'm just saying that you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can see the pros and cons of both sides.
It either strengthens your own position and argument or it makes you go to the other side. Or, like what Jordan Peterson always said is when he's thinking of an idea, and this is kind of what I've naturally done in the past anyways, is that he would create almost all these different sub-personalities of any opinion that you could possibly have. He would accumulate as much evidence as possible across all of those sub-personalities, then almost have like a debate/argument in his head with these different sub-personalities in their respective positions about, and essentially just debate each other, and which one would come out on top would be the winner. Like maybe there was 5 different positions you could have had on a certain issue, and he would debate all of them like in his head as sub-personalities, and then he would do that to try and arrive at the best conclusion possible based on the facts provided. So that's why everyone says like, oh, it's just my opinion, but it's like, I don't care about your opinion because it's an opinion, or like, this is my opinion. It doesn't matter. Like people should like, because if it's just your opinion, you're already prefacing that you're not basing this on much ground that you have to stand on, right? Because that's just what you think. But if you say, this is my position that's predicated on the facts that I have available to me on both sides, then it's a lot more educated, and it's no longer an opinion. It's pretty much you using hopefully what's common sense as a human being to derive a conclusion based on facts. Because you could have all the facts thrown in front of your head, but it's my opinion that like, that's just wrong or whatever, right? Like that's what an opinion is. Like it could totally be anti-fact.
Yeah. That's why I like keep it within this realm. It's like it's simple. It's super simple. It's like the nutrition's easy dogmatic on all ends.
Yeah.
Hence why the carnivore is blowing up. Even though it does work, even though it's one of the best elimination diets of all time.
Yeah.
It actually is the greatest one for almost all autoimmune diseases. One of the best ways to get out of there.
Absolutely.
And then fix that for a short period of time, not longevity. Vegan, same exact premise on the other side. There are some great things to learn about not eating that much protein from meat itself. Do I advocate it? No. I'm just saying that there are benefits.
Yeah.
And then you can keep going on both sides in terms of nutrition and training. It's like training. It's like, why do bodybuilders spend like 6 hours on one end of all body part splits? Then the other side is like, what we say is like the minimal effective volume, which is like 2 full body days. And it's like, what happened? Why is that so different? And it's like, well, you're still lifting and then you're still trying to get results. It's just they're getting to 100. They're trying to get to 100%. We're just trying to get 80%.
Yeah.
With 20% effort and 99% effort. So like the whole point is if you understand both sides, every stance that you take, every understanding that you do, if you're able to argue the opposite side and the opposite stance and find the pros and the cons of both sides, you're able to have a way better argument, or at least a stance that you can be grounded on. And also just take also a better approach to whatever it is that you're going to do with anything. Fitness, nutrition, argue the opposite of any diet that you think is the best. Take any other position and see what happens. Yeah. With politics, find the other policy and see why it would be better. And if it truly doesn't, then you at least understand why. I think that's the whole thing is behind it is just why. Mm-hmm. Make the argument for the other side.
And you also see those people as a human being more too. If you're making the argument from the other side, you still don't agree with it, but you could now start to see what lens they're viewing an issue through, and humanizes them a little more, which we should be doing more. Right?
Yeah.
Which is like people get angry now, like, oh, you're humanizing people that voted for that side. Like that's the craziest thing ever that you'd be mad about that. They're human beings. They're human faces. You know, but I think that's the best argument for free speech also. It's like, you know, and I'll make it short, but basically like John Stuart Mill, like was one of the most famous books ever on liberty, just like describing why he believes in free speech. And it was like, humans are infallible or not infallible, meaning like they are not perfect, and therefore no human being is ever going to be, human beings are never capable of being 100% right about 100% of things. Therefore, if there's even 0.0001% of doubt, like we should be able to have thoughts about those ideas. Now, even if we knew 100% that something was true, the reason why we should still have free thought and allow people, like encourage conversation with people that totally disagree with this thing that we know is 100% true, because the best remedy for like bad ideas is sunshine. So if you let things like go underground and now people are like believing like this conspiracy basically, and then they're constantly being shut down, it has the opposite effect, or they call it the Streisand effect now for a different reason. But basically that idea becomes greater because everyone's like, well, wait, why are they shutting this guy up? I want to hear what that guy has to say. Like there has to be a reason why they're shutting that guy up. So if you give that idea sunshine and then allow an actual debate and the people to decide for themselves, you either one, strengthen your own argument against that person's argument, and maybe even persuade people who was believing the thing that was incorrect to come over to your side. And then worst comes to worst is that you were actually wrong and then change your mind into something that was right. So like where in that equation is there room for there not to be free speech? There is no room. No matter how crazy the idea is, there's no room for it because it always results in a net negative. Even if you allow someone that's crazy to start saying the craziest things, it strengthens society if you allow that to happen.
There you go. There you have it.
Boom. If you got value from this podcast and you want to continue to receive massive value so you could keep building muscle and dropping fat, then subscribe to this podcast and follow us at our Instagram handles. Mine's at benjitucker.fit.
And at coach_Chris Lee.
Have a good one.